Hi everyone, Jimthony Teach Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Future and Lil Uzi Vert project, Pluto and Baby Pluto. This is a new collaboration between two of hip-hop's most beloved auto-crooners, Future and Lil Uzi Vert, teaming up for 16 new tracks as Pluto and Baby Pluto, essentially celebrating this trap dynasty that they have going on. 2020 has been a pretty good year for these two, especially with Uzi having dropped his long-awaited Eternal Atake this past spring. So, in a way, Pluto and Baby Pluto is like a victory lap for these two at the end of a very trying 2020. And yet, I also feel like this album is trying me, because just about every potential bad outcome of these two getting together has come to life here. And it's not that I'm trying to dismiss Future and Uzi's artistry here outright, but they do begin to cancel each other out after a while on this project because their respective styles are so similar. Just think back to a project like What a Time to Be Alive, for example. Future and Drake, there is some stylistic separation there, there is a dynamic there. Or even Without Warning with 21 Savage and Offset, there's a dynamic there too. But in the case of Future and Uzi just trading back and forth with these nondescript auto-tuned riffs over and over and over and over with really no interruption, it comes off extremely one-dimensional, especially on tracks where there's little to no vibe. Or during moments where one of them is clearly carrying the track, which oddly enough happens more often than you would think. The opener Stripes Like Burberry, for example, which sounds like a really promising beginning to the record as it kicks off with one of the strongest hooks on the entire project. A very expressive verse from Uzi Vert too. The chilly production on this track also seems like an extension of the space trap that Uzi Vert launched on Eternal Atake. But Future's appearance in the second half is absolutely ridiculous. He is straining the hell out of his voice as he tries to follow along with Uzi Vert's melodic flows. His verses meander completely. If these two were gonna collab, maybe there should have been some taking into account of each other's respective vocal ranges, I guess. But that's probably too much to ask. Still though, it's a relatively dramatic and melodic start to the record. The following Marnie on Me sees Uzi and Future going absolutely dumb on this cold-blooded trap beat with lots of atmosphere and bubbling arpeggios. A lot of lines trading between these two about getting exactly what you want at the push of a button. It's very hedonistic, it's very exaggerated, pretty funny to a degree, and speaks to a certain level of chemistry that I think these two have together. But I can't really ignore the fact that there's little to no structure to the song. The refrain is lazy as hell, and I think the whole thing, despite it not being one of the longest tracks here, gets pretty stale pretty fast. Things do pick up with Sleeping on the Floor though, which features an insane energy thanks to its upped tempo and thumping 808s. Some really eerie synth lines too, and meanwhile Uzi and Future trade these very hurried flows which just create a fantastic momentum. I mean, maybe it's a little all over the place and sloppy, but I guess the viscera is there. The next major highlight on the LP for me is maybe Million Dollar Play, which also features some slightly sloppy but fast flowing from Uzi and Future. Shoot it up, 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 shoot it up. The exaggerated brags, the sticky flows. Nothing new for Future or Uzi in concept, but when they do it well, they do it well. But from here, I think Pluto and Baby Pluto starts to lose even more momentum. Plastic and That's It both feature interesting production, especially Plastic with its seemingly Eastern Bloc strings and horns that are very downtrodden, sort of an unlikely sample for a trap instrumental, but again, this track and That's It, I can't say Future and Uzi really do anything interesting with either of these beats. The production severely carries If We're Being Honest. Meanwhile, Bought a Bad Bitch, which is one of the few focused songs on here in terms of a topic, in terms of a chorus. Yeah, it is that, but it's also packed with bars that seem to insinuate that Uzi or Future are blowing all of this cash on some girl's plastic surgery, and by way of that she owes them something, or they own her in a way. The ethos of the song is just Gross. Following this, there's a few solo tracks on the record where Uzi and Future both respectively go into a sentimental, nostalgic, and I suppose introspective direction. Future's cut, however, comes off a lot more substantive lyrically and compelling vocally. I can't really say all of that for Lullaby. Then we move on to a so-so final leg where the record continues to paint itself into a corner. She Never Been to Pluto just sort of sounds like an Eternal Take leftover. Then I Don't Want to Break Up also features one of the few memorable and also, I guess, premeditated choruses on the project, but it's kind of ruined by how awful the singing is, which is one of many instances where the record is a little self-defeating. There might be some great ideas or beats or flows being thrown out here and there, but everything else around these elements may be incredibly subpar or even lackluster. There might be a really stagnant beat, there might be a really underwhelming performance, there might be some really laughable or underwhelming writing, all of which contribute to a feeling that there's just a lack of ambition on this thing, especially on the closer, Moment of Clarity, which feels like anything but. Yeah, the track does have a refrain featuring the phrase Moment of Clarity in a sparkling, euphoric instrumental, but outside of that, it's packed with the same exact self-indulgent pap that nearly every other song here is. So, I don't know. I just feel like this is a very wishy-washy, mediocre batch of songs that vary pretty wildly in quality. There are a few bangers, there are a few highlights, but at the end of the day, the biggest failure of this LP is that it didn't end up being greater than the sum of its parts. Bringing Uzi and Future together for the length of an entire record essentially does nothing. It doesn't create anything we haven't heard before. It doesn't make Future sound different. It doesn't make Uzi sound different. In fact, I think it illustrates just how, I guess, one-dimensional their respective styles really are. Feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this one. Transition. Have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Lil Uzi Vert, Future, forever.